With me, as always, is Trey.
Yes, I am Trey. So it's been a while. We are officially back. We're gonna try to get you guys these podcasts every other Friday. Obviously, life gets in the way. Shane had to go to see Spokane Chiefs game, and the previous week there was some drama that happened where if you guys have followed his YouTube channel, you would see, but something else that we're going to get into today on this podcast. But, anyways, we appreciate you guys for stopping by, bearing with us. We're trying to be as consistent as we can. Shane's grinding YouTube, he's doing streams, um, at least like shit, like, oh, sorry. But he's doing streams whenever he can. I think every day for like the past week I see him on stream. So so that's what we're trying to do is be consistent and YouTube streams and everything. And for anyone that wants to start a YouTube channel, not saying that me and Shane are Mr. Beast or anything, but consistency is number one, not just in YouTube, but in life in general. So, definitely something that we're going to try to do going forward. But as for this podcast, there's a lot of stuff we got to talk about. A lot's happened. We have the Super Bowl matchups. I don't even think the last time we got on here, but that both Pete Carroll and Bill Belichick got fired. So it's definitely been a minute. And we also got the Madden Bowl. The Madden Bowl has been taking place over the last 2 to 3 days. We got our final matchup between Wesley and Henry. And from what I understand, Henry's being very close to being the first Madden millionaire. So that's crazy. Who would have thought, right? Back in the day, you could be a millionaire from playing Madden. He probably makes more than twice as more as people that work on the game as developers. But as you know, there's probably someone else in EA Sports that gets paid from MUT packs and bundles that you never talk about, that are probably some shady people. So, with all that being said, Shane, how have you been doing? And what is your take on everything that's been going on the last couple days? So,
Appreciate it, Trey. Sorry, I kind of laughed in the background. Is because Bros came in here and said 2 minutes into the stream and Trey already with the profanity. Shut her down. She was joking, obviously, but that's funny as hell. Anyways, I've been good, bro. I've been good. Like I said, I've been good. Like I've been streaming basically Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday between 1:30 2 p.m. Pacific time until about depending on the day 4 to 5:30 p.m. So between 2 hours and 3 hours. Um yeah, it's pretty crazy to see Pete Carroll and Bill Belichick gone. I know now how people felt when Marv Levy was gone from the Buffalo Bills head coach back in the day. You see him around for so long, you're gonna think that they're gonna last for a long time. Um, Mike Mc, man, I'm gonna screw up his name. Mike MacDonald, right? Mike MacDonald. I think yeah, or Mike McDonald. It's Mike McDonald, I believe. I'm gonna screw his name up for a while, so bear with me. I actually like the get for Seattle. Like, I mean, he runs the cover three base shell for the most part, like Pete Carroll did. He'll drop linemen into coverage like Pete Carroll did. The difference is he will dial up exotic blitzes more, and I think he was the seventh most blitzing defensive coordinator in the NFL. So, I mean, I'm excited to see where it goes. Um, I just don't, I'm a little bummed to see Pete Carroll go. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'm a little bit bummed to see him go. Like, I don't know what you feel about Bill Belichick. It's a little bit weird to see Bill Belichick gone as well. The Madden Bowl has had some sick games. I mean, especially if you like especially if you like 2 to 3 plays being called a game. I mean, you'll definitely like it. Yeah, yeah. I know they adjust. It was a funny. Calm down, people. Um, but yeah. Other than that, like I've just been streaming, dealing with stuff like that, handling business. I feel, like I said, it feels a little weird that Pete Carroll is gone. So Trey, what do you feel about Bill Belichick? Like, how do you feel? Are you happy he's gone? Like, are you bummed out? How do you feel?
Well, the thing is, and I think, this is a sentiment that you have shared, is about how fans are spoiled, you know. And honestly, I've held that sentiment too for quite a while. Obviously the New England Patriots with Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, the whole success we've had over the years, no one's going to be able to duplicate. So on that aspect, I can see, how people are saying, oh, only one losing season and you're going to fire them. But then I have been, watching and hearing other people's opinions, and that's one thing that, I try to do because I felt strongly about this. But, if someone comes on and, they present a good opinion, I can, see it, not always agree with it, but see where they're coming from and say, okay, they're onto something. But something that I did hear from one of the New England Patriots journalists is he was basically saying, people are on here saying, "Oh, you're firing them after one good season," but the reality is that ever since 2019, when Tom Brady, he was 8-0 in 2019, and people were saying he was the most depressed 9-0 quarterback in football because of the lack of offensive weapons and just his unhappiness with the organization in general. So I think that when you look at it in context, from 2019, we had the COVID year with Cam Newton. We went like 7-9. And then in 2021, we make the playoffs, get the brakes beat off of us in the opening round. And then the next year we had a losing season, and we go 4-12 this year. So, do I think that the collapse of the New England Patriots is all Bill Belichick's fault? No. I'm pretty. And then also with the whole Mac Jones situation, which is very interesting to me. I think that Mac Jones was good as a rookie, and that's another thing. People are going to say, oh well, he had offensive coordinators. And I think if we were to keep Josh McDaniels from 21 going forward, I think the progression would be significant or about the same or whatever. But at the end of the day, this is the NFL. Like, Josh McDaniels was going to leave to become the head coach. We didn't fire him or nothing, I don't think so. But I think the thing with Mac Jones is that he got injured, got a high ankle sprain, and then Bailey Zappi came in. And the decision that I think the Patriots really screwed up with Mac Jones is the game against Chicago Monday night. Jones, A, he wasn't 100%, but B, he wasn't the starter in that game, so they had Zappi, and then they had Jones, who isn't at 100%. He's not the starter. Who the hell knows going in? Only they know. If it was like saying, hey kid, I know your ankle's hurt, but go play. But so yeah, it's and then with all that being said, we got Gerard Mayo, so interested to see how that works out. And so yeah, that was kind of a long spill. I do kind of want to get, because I know you're not a Patriots fan, but what is your take on the whole Bill Belichick, Mac Jones situation? And Also, someone else that he didn't get fired, but he kind of went off on his own terms is Nick Saban that retired. So, what's your whole take on that? Sorry about the long take or the long spill. Ugh.
No, you're good, Trey. You're good. I like hearing your point of view. I feel like basically Bill Belichick and Pete Carroll kind of got thrown to the wind or the wolves, however you want to, break it down. I think what happened was, they wanted to get younger. I think the new hype is young kids, young player or young coaches, not young kids, but like 30 to 40-year-olds now. So I think like with Pete Carroll and like Bill Belichick, I just think that it's more because they're older than anything, and they really think that the game has passed them by. But the problem is like, so I'm gonna spin it like, so the pro Pete Carroll people think that you know Pete Carroll was not far off from rebuilding the team to being really good again. And I'm using Pete Carroll because I'm a Seahawk fan, and I follow people on Twitter, yada yada. The anti Pete Carroll people are like, he's not good enough anymore. He's too old. The game has passed him by. So I'm assuming that's what people probably say about Bill Belichick because in the end, most fan bases are similar. They really are. The QB sucks. The QB's great. The running back's good. The running back sucks. Yada yada yada. I just think that they're ready to move on. I think like Andy Reid, he's 66 years old. I think that his first maybe 2 seasons that he struggles, I think that they're gonna say the game's passed him by too. Because in the end, like Sean McVay for the Rams, he's only won one championship. And he was called Boy Wonder if you recall. Boy Wonder. He's gonna set the world on fire. Yeah, I mean he does pretty good. He wins, right? But like Sean McVay said about Pete Carroll, he's glad that Pete Carroll's out of the NFC West because Pete Carroll's a hell of a coach. So wouldn't you trust somebody that all the fans called Boy Wonder and analysts said that was an amazing coach? I mean, then he said that basically Pete Carroll was a hell of a coach and he's glad that he's not in the NFC West anymore. And that's what people were saying about Bill Belichick. Like, he's one of the best to ever do it, right or wrong. If you think it's because of Tom Brady and you think he would have sucked without Tom Brady, to be fair, you always need a good QB for the most part, especially in an offensive era. Maybe back in 2000 when you had like Trent Dilfer with the Baltimore Ravens and he was just like okay, but it was a different time. It was a different league. So you need a good QB probably to win a championship now. Like even Brock Purdy, he does well enough, right? He does well enough. Um, so like I just think that Bill Belichick, Trey, and Rose, I just think those two got kind of axed because they're old. And yeah, there is going to be disagreements. Um, and I'm sure Bill Belichick's probably not the easiest guy to always talk with. Where Pete Carroll is more positive and upbeat, and people come back. I do want to talk about the Richard Sherman Twitter controversy. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but anyways, Trey, that's where I will throw it back to you on that subject.
Yeah, no, for sure. I actually did not know that there was a Richard Sherman controversy, so I'm excited to talk about that and get your perspective on that. And yeah, and it's true too. I mean, people say the game passed them by, but at the end of the day, the NFL is what have you done for me lately? I mean, it's always been like that. And if you can say, okay, Bill Belichick wouldn't be as good without Tom Brady. But my rebuttal to that, then, if he's not the greatest coach ever in your mind, then who is? Are you gonna say Bill Walsh? Because every other head coach that you could put in as the GOAT also has a good quarterback or a good quarterback to go along with it. So that's kind of my thing. I think that when you have someone like Tom Brady who has done things that's insurmountable and And then you have people that are going to compare it to him, and that's just not fair, in my opinion. It's not fair to compare anyone or say this person wouldn't be good without Tom Brady because it's unrealistic. Like, there's literally only one Tom Brady ever in the world, so that would be my question. If he's not good, then who is? If he's not the best, then who is? So I do want to ask you, so in your opinion, because I know that when Bill Belichick left the season, he did apparently have a few interviews with the Atlanta Falcons, and he did interview with them, but nothing really has came about from that. So, do you think that Bill Belichick will coach again? And if he does coach in the NFL again, do you think he will be close to Don Shula's record, or do you think do you think that he's done for the most part? For
So here's where I'm at. That I'm gonna answer a couple of things. So first off, Rose, I do think that Jared Goff honestly is better than people gave credit for. I think that McVay got all the credit in the world for making Goff look like a good QB to people when he was a supposedly a subpar QB, but McVay made him a good QB. But his best numbers now are in Detroit, and it's not even the LA Rams. So I don't think Goff is a great QB. I think he's an above average QB. I don't think he has a good deep ball. He can do the short and intermediate routes pretty good. But I think he's better than what McVay and fans of McVay thought. To answer that, I think Jimmy G is not that good. I think that Purdy's better than those two QBs, to be fair, but I also think that Shanahan also makes the offense better for the QB than it really is. Kind of like I still believe Andy Reid does for Patrick Mahomes, right or wrong. Uh, I think that Bill Belichick, to answer your question, Trey, I think that Bill Belichick won't coach next year. I think that if anything, he'll be back like next year. Not next year, but the year after, excuse me. So I think he'll be 1 year off, taking a break, and then maybe coach again. But I mean, I think it's like 25% chance that he's the head coach again. I think for the most part, he is gonna be probably end up retiring, kind of like Pete Carroll and Rose. Yeah, I mean, like I said, like I'm never sold on a QB in his first few years. I hate when people try to king him. Like people are trying to king Purdy right now. And Trey, you could back me up on this because I'm gonna go somewhere. Then it's gonna jog Trey's memory. Like I said, I don't think Lamar Jackson, how people try to say it, is was going to be the next the next the next best player. I mean, his playoff numbers are trash. I called it with Trey even when he was setting records like 6 touchdowns to 6 picks as a superstar QB. That's not it because eventually he's going to get that Dak Prescott Tony Romo choke label. Right or wrong, they're going to eventually give him that you know what I mean? They're going to give him that label. So for me, it's like that's where I am with Lamar. He needs to win a big game, not just one game, but like a big game. Like him dropping it to the Chiefs. I mean, 10 points. Well, yeah, but they faced a number two defense. That's fine, but they only gave up 17 at home, and they lost. Kind of like when he lost to the Tennessee Titans. I mean, he's gonna have to eventually win a big game. I don't crown anyone. Just like I'm gonna need to see something else from Patrick Mahomes' the Super Bowl. His numbers haven't been that great besides the last Super Bowl, which was really good. He had a great Super Bowl against Philly, but the other three Super Bowls were subpar. But yeah, I mean, I definitely think that Rose. To answer you, I do think that he could become Dallas's head coach, Bill Belichick. But I'm not even I'm not even really sold on him coming back. I'm probably like 25% Trey. And yeah, I agree with you, Rose, about Lamar for sure. But Trey, you remember when I said that about Lamar, right?
Yeah, I do remember, and boy, would that be something if you had Jerry Jones and Bill Belichick in the same in the same building. That would be interesting for sure. But yeah, Lamar Jackson. I mean, Mahomes. I'm not even sold on Mahomes until he loses Travis Kelsey and Andy Reid, and then if he can do something without Andy Reid and Travis Kelsey, then I'll be kind of. And don't get me wrong, he's still a Hall of Fame quarterback. Like already, he's a Hall of Fame quarterback. But I do think a lot of his success has to do with Andy Reid and Travis Kelsey. I mean, you can go back and look at Alex Smith from 2013 to 19. He has way better stats by a pretty significant margin thanks to Andy Reid, Donovan McNabb, etc. So, and then yeah, for Lamar Jackson, he didn't get the job done. I mean, whatever excuses you wanna say, um, you obviously had the Zay Flowers um, debacle or whatever, but at the end of the day, he just didn't get the job done. And Lamar, I don't think Lamar's one of those people that's going to come up with excuses or anything else. He's probably going to say that, he has to do better. And he's still young, so we'll see what he accomplishes in the future. I do kind of, because we were talking about Bill Belichick and quarterbacks and etc. How do you think about Mac Jones? Do you think that he has potential to revise his NFL career, or do you think he's kind of too broken at this point to do much? Do you?
Okay, so first off, Rose wanted me to tell you about Bill Belichick. She thinks might want to go to Dallas because he wants to win without Brady to prove a point, but he also doesn't need to because he has nothing really to prove. He already has an amazing resume. That's what she wanted me to tell you, bro. And go ahead
Yeah,
and
I,
answer if you
I,
can.
yeah, no, I agree with you, but then it still wouldn't matter because if he did win one, people would just say, yeah, but he had a good team or whatever. So it's really, and I think, and honestly, this is gonna be a hot take, and then I'll throw it back over to Shane. But I honestly think that the way that Bill Belichick does drafting, and he'll cut. I mean, this is way back in the day, but he'll cut Lawyer Malloy just cold heartedly. And you can look at that and think that he's trying to do that to say that there's no I in team and no one is above the team. Honestly, and this is kind of a hot take, but I think he kind of gets off on it in a way to kind of say that look at how bad this team is, and I have a playoff win with them. I mean, it's not all that, but I do think there's a part of that he kind of gets off on gets off on the fact that he's able to go to Super Bowls with not the superstars and all that. So yeah,
So, like, that is a good take, Trey. I like it. I agree. I agree for the most part. Like, I mean, so I will say something. I think that nowadays everything has to be instantaneous, right? Everything. I think like somebody like Mac Jones or even Zach Wilson. I think that if you bench somebody, then put them back in, then bench them again, it just f's with their head and it screws with their mindset. Like growing up for me, and okay, shut up, old head, but growing up. I used to watch QBs sit on the bench for 2 to 3 years and just learn behind a QB that might not even be as good as them. Like, look here, I'll give you an example. Aaron Rodgers sitting behind Brett Favre. Aaron Rodgers is better than Brett Favre. He just is. Now, how much better? I don't know, but I think he's better. But look, Aaron Rodgers only has one Super Bowl. The problem is that everybody has social media and everybody has a take now and everybody has an opinion. Um, and my thing is here's the thing. Um, it is hard to win. Sorry, Rose wanted me to read you something. I will, Rose, in 1 second. The thing it's hard to win. Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is one of the best QBs I have seen. He is kind of douchey, but he's one of the best QBs I've ever seen. He has one championship. Seahawk fans wanting to fire Pete Carroll after a 9-win season. These people did not suffer through the 90s like I did. The 2-14 seasons, the 7-9 seasons. We were happy when we went 8-8. So yes, I do believe people in social media and the whole instantaneous like, oh, we want to win and all this stuff, and we need to win every year. You know who the only QB is that's won more more than 3 Super Bowls that we've watched in the last 30, 40 years? Tom Brady. You know who's won 2? Eli Manning, Peyton Manning, and Patrick Mahomes. So like we're going off of like 4 QBs in 40 plus years, and people are trying to fire coaches that are 9-10 win people or 9-10 win NFL coaches. It's just wild to me. Okay, so Trey, this is for you from Rose. She said, hold on. I have an opinion on Mac. I think Mac has a lot of potential. He just needs a change of scenery and out of the camera light. He got so much pressure in New England, not New York, New England trying to replace Brady and the coaching situation. If Mac could go sit behind a guy like Herbert or some other scenario, he would. Sorry, where he isn't the focus, then damn, dude, this thing is messing me up. I'm so sorry. She thinks Tampa would be a good spot for Mac too, behind Baker Mayfield to develop. There you go, Trey. Sorry, I kind of butchered it, Rose.
Yeah, no, for sure. And then I agree with Rose on that for sure. I mean, like I said, like, I think that the ankle injury, and, there might have been some other contributing factors, but, definitely something happened along the way that made him broken. I mean, in the Germany game against the Colts, and how Shane was saying when you bench somebody or whatever, but I mean, like, people have looked back at the clips. I don't know if you've seen it or whatever, but there was one clip in particular that Mac Jones has a touchdown, and he was like, anyway, it was a terrible throw, and even the person that was analyzing says, like, yeah, that's the kind of throw that'll get you benched or whatever. So, but yeah, I think he does have a chance, and I'm rooting for him, and I also like Bailey Zappi. I'm probably the minority of Patriots fans that kind of wants to draft Marvin Harrison. A lot of Patriots fans would disagree with me and say that we need to take Caleb Williams, Drake May, some other quarterback in the first round, but I think I just want to see like what Bailey Zappi could do with a full season. Because even going down to the late games, he had that one game in Pittsburgh that was a pretty good performance. So yeah. So transferring on to the draft portion, do you think have you looked at any prospects? You got the I think they had like something in mobile. I think it's what it is, but they had like I don't know if it wasn't a combine, but it was like for prospects and stuff. Like, what is your take on the whole upcoming prospects that we got coming up in the draft? If you got a chance to see them, see.
I haven't. I'm gonna be honest. I haven't looked at a ton of stuff. I'm just going off of what like I've heard and kind of watched myself in the college football. Like I'm gonna be honest. I'm not sold on the Michigan QB at all. I'm drawing a blank on his name. I just think he's gonna be kind of like a Zach Wilson. So take it however you want it. Penix from UW. He's all. I think he'll be all right. I'm not really sold on those two QBs. I did hear that Jaden Daniels. I think he plays for LSU. The Seahawks were looking at him as a QB. I believe he's a QB out of LSU. I haven't watched much tape on him. The guy that I am biggest on, like I think he's gonna be a stud. Like I would put money on he makes Pro Bowls. I think that he will be a big name for years to come is the UW wide receiver Adunye. I think that's how you say it. I'm not exactly sure how you spell it. Like OD something ODU. I can't. I don't know how to spell it, but it was a superstar for the Huskies, and he was absolutely like he just reminds me of like a big body where he goes up and just gets stuff. Like it's okay, it's a Odunze. Thank you, Rose. So yeah, I mean I was close. Yeah, that's who I think is going to be a superstar. Trey. Like if you haven't watched his film, go watch his film. I think he's the best player that I've watched. I haven't seen Marvin Harrison a lot. I think he's out of Ohio State. I do think that I've heard about him like name wise. I just haven't watched enough. But going back to the Pete Carroll Bill Belichick thing, really quick, I forgot about this. So I have a person that knows a person who works in the Seahawks organization that basically said that, like, which is crazy, is that Pete Carroll basically got fired because of loyalty. He didn't want to fire Clint Hurt. He didn't want to fire Shane Waldron. They wanted Judy Allen, the owner, and John Snyder were ready to move on from him. In the past, John Snyder wanted Russell Wilson gone. He wanted to get Josh Allen, and Pete Carroll wanted to keep Russell Wilson. So basically, like Pete Carroll got fired because he's too loyal, where like Bill Belichick was just more cutthroat, like how you were saying, Trey. And it's wild because it makes sense, right? Excuse me. Actually, I'm going to go on this Richard Sherman thing. Like, I apologize, Trey. I know you were doing the NFL draft, but it rolls all into one. So, I find out this after the Richard Sherman debacle on Twitter. Okay. Basically, it all kind of makes sense to me. So I'm on Twitter late night, and I'm like, damn, Richard Sherman's arguing with a bunch of Seahawk fans, and like basically saying he doesn't care if he ever goes into the Seahawks Ring of Honor, and he gives more credit to the 49ers or how they treated him, and the Seahawks just basically cut him when he tore his Achilles, and tons of players from the Seahawks past feel the same way about the organization, like yada yada yada. Well, that's what Bill Belichick would have done. He would have cut Richard Sherman. He would have cut Earl Thomas, and they were kind of right, right? Earl Thomas went to Baltimore, went crazy, started having threesomes with his brother. Richard Sherman went to Tampa Bay, got hurt again, didn't really play again, right? So they're technically right. Well, so this guy writes to him and goes, "Whoa, I thought you and Pete were cool. Didn't you go to his retirement dinner for the Seahawks or whatever?" And Richard Sherman replied with, "Yeah, I love Pete." And the guy goes, "Oh, so it's John Snyder thing, huh?" And Richard Sherman responded with, "John knows how I feel about him." But basically, And I mean, you guys can go look it up too and read it. It's really crazy. It's just Richard Sherman. Just go into Google and look for him and click on his name. Basically, he's saying that Seahawk fans are selfish, rude. Um, that Pete Carroll was super nice, super like a great guy. He loves Pete Carroll. That's why he'd come back and hang around. And either John Snyder or Jody Allen were the issue. Now, is he a little emotional? Probably. I mean, probably a little bit. Like, you know how Richard Sherman is. Like, look at him on field. Don't you ever talk about me. I mean, so, like, he is basically, I mean, he's an emotional guy. I mean, that's just how I feel. Like, so for, like, that whole scenario, Trey, it was wild. Rose thinks Giants take Adunyas or Adunya. I already butchered up. And what's up, Trey Jr.? Trey Jr. in the building. Rose, Rose. Didn't Sherman go to San Fran after Seattle cut him, and then he went to Tampa Bay? I swore Richard Sherman got cut by Seattle, went to San Fran, went to the Super Bowl, got burned by Sammy Watkins, if I'm remembering correctly, and then ended up with Tampa Bay, and then retired. I'm pretty sure. But yeah, Trey, if you haven't, go look up Adunye or however you say his name for the Huskies.
All right, yeah, for sure will. And yeah, that whole Twitter thing is crazy for sure. I'm not exactly sure how I feel about it. I think you have a better insight because you're actually a Seahawk fan, and you can say if Sherman is right in thinking that a lot of Seahawks fans are rude and etc. But it is crazy how like you said, on one side of the spectrum, how one coach has got in trouble because he was too loyal, and the other the other one got in trouble because he was too cutthroat. And it's like, I guess you kind of have to find a happy medium somewhere in there. So I wanted to ask you, like, because Cameron Ward, he was the WSU quarterback, and he declared for the draft initially, but from what I read, I guess he's gonna play for the Miami Hurricanes this upcoming year. So, do you think he can be successful? Like, what do you think of the decision from Cam Ward to undeclare for the draft and to go play with Miami?
I'm okay. So two-parter. Let me rant a little bit. There are some Dick Seahawk fans, but there's Dick 49er fans, there's Dick Patriot fans, there's Dick any NFL team fans, any sport teams, and then there's good fans. That's why I don't know why Sherman's up in his feelings, but at the same time, I'm not upset about him checking him. Kind of like I'm not really upset about Jamal trying to check that one dude who was talking about him. I think people get way too comfortable. I think that's why when Mike Tyson said everybody got a plan until you punch them in their mouth, and social media made people way too comfortable. It's it's really really true. For Cameron Ward, okay, so I'm gonna be honest, bro. I He always kind of bugged me with his decision making. Very talented, athletic, strong arm, but would make some boneheaded plays where I'm like I don't know what he's doing. Um, I just I'm not really sold on him as an NFL player. Like for me, it's like I'm not really sold on him, man. I think he should have stayed at WSU in the air raid. Okay, I think he should have stayed in the air raid. I think that that was his best option. That's just my opinion. I think he's a good QB, but I'm not sure if he last makes the NFL, bro. That's where I am, and for me, it's here's where I am on this whole thing. So Rose wants me to ask you about the saga of the Bears. Are they going to stay with Fields or Williams? Is Marvin Harrison a Bear? Caleb Williams turned down, said he will not play for the Bears. Here's my opinion. Like, you know who turned me off? Like, literally turned me off as a player for the longest time was Eli Manning. Like when he refused to be drafted by, I believe, the Chargers, I was like, that pissed me off. And like for Caleb Williams, that already pisses me off too because like, dude, you should accept that you get drafted somewhere, and you should accept that you know what I mean. You should accept that where you get drafted, you should feel blessed. You should feel happy. So for me, it's like you sound like spoiled crybaby. Like I'm just being honest. Like if I was blessed enough to be good enough, and it's the number one draft pick to whoever, I would go there and I'd be like, I'm going to turn this organization around. I'm going to do this. So, anyways, so Trey Jr. Fields is all right. He's hit and miss with me. Super talented, super athletic. Just sometimes doesn't make the correct read. But yeah, I don't think he has enough weapons. So I do agree with you, Trey Jr. So Trey Sr., my podcast co-host. Basically, what do you think about the whole Chicago Bears? Do you think they're going to keep with Fields? Do you think they're going to go with Williams? What about Marvin Harrison? And what do you think about Caleb Williams denying to be the number one draft pick if Chicago drafts him?
All right, so here's where I'm at with this, and I kind of wish Soul was in here because he's a Chicago Bears fan. Shout out to Soul Crusher. He's comes in when he can. He's a good friend of both me and Shane. So, I think if you're Chicago, this season you had a pretty. It wasn't a good season, but I think you guys won 7 games or whatever it was. And I think it has to be right now. Like, if I'm a Chicago Bears fan, I'm thinking, okay, maybe Fields isn't the guy, but after what you saw Detroit do, and, if Jordan Love is looking pretty scary, he got to sit behind Aaron Rodgers, and the similarities between him and Aaron Rodgers is pretty scary. So do you want to go through another 10 or so years of Jordan Love dominating you like Aaron Rodgers did? I think that you're coming off of an all right season. You know what you have with Justin Fields if you take Caleb Williams and all his baggage that comes with it. You're pretty much saying, okay, we're not going to be competing this year probably, and it's going to take a good 2 to 3 years to rebuild, get the right weapons. I mean, you have DJ Moore, but I don't think DJ Moore is a true number one. He is in Chicago, but I don't know if I would think that DJ Moore is he's not like a Justin Jefferson or nothing like that. So, in my opinion, I think it's right now. Like, you did good last year. Take Marvin Harrison, try to make a run, try to make a playoff push, because I think that my prediction is that you guys are probably not going to be very good. So for the next couple of years, because the NFC North is looking pretty scary. So I think it has to happen right now. Take Marvin Harrison, try to make as deep of a run as possible. So Shane, what do you think that they should do?
I mean, so here's where I am again. I think that people need to give QBs time. I think people need to give just people in general a little bit time. You know what I mean? Like, just give them a little bit of time. Like, this, like, you better in your first year throw for 4,000 yards, 40 touchdowns, or whatever is a little bit overplayed. I mean, it's too much for every, like, I don't know, for every, here, I'll say this. for every I don't know. For every here I'll say for every Patrick Mahomes you have Trey Lance or whatever the guy's name is from San Fran or Jamarcus Russell. Like, but you overdo it like and you do it too quick and it just ruins things. Trey Jr. My problem is with Fields. At least when I watched him, and yes, I'm not an NFL analyst. Is like sometimes he wouldn't make the fast read. He'd start to leave the pocket and run around, and he kind of looked like a lesser version of a Russell Wilson, where Russell Wilson's more was has always been pretty accurate throwing. Um, One guy that's wild for you guys to take that like for all of you guys in here and stuff is to look at Tua's brother. I think he plays for Maryland. He literally like looks like Russell Wilson. He reminds me of Russell Wilson. He wears Russell Wilson's number. He throws right-handed. He's short. Sometimes he'll bail out of the pocket like Russ did and make amazing plays. Sometimes sometimes he would like get sacked and I'd just be like, damn, he spun out and just did some crazy stuff. Yeah, exactly, Rose. I just think that sometimes you need to give QBs time. Sometimes you can either start them, but if you're gonna start them, give them a few years, and then in like 2 or 3 years, he still sucks. Okay, then maybe think about the next thing where you go. I just think that this whole like play him, bench him, trade him, cut him. I mean, it just ruins the psyche. And for somebody like, let's say, here I'll say this, like here, let's say you draft Caleb Williams. Everybody's gonna say he needs to play now because he's the number one draft pick. Then you better play him for 3 straight years and let him go through his ups and downs. Let him struggle. Let him make amazing plays. Let him do some dumb stuff, and see after 3 years if you want to continue with him, or like even like Justin Fields, you got to give him time. So I don't know. Like for me, it's really hard. Like I'm more of the type that tries to give people options to build, options to grow. I just don't really believe that like you you should fire somebody or bench somebody right away. Whereas like like here I'll give you an example. Arizona Cardinals Kyler Murray. I've all I've heard is that he's on the trade block and he needs to be traded. That I mean he's smaller than Russell Wilson and that causes trouble for seeing certain routes and certain plays. But like why don't you try to build around it? You know what I mean? Try to build around it. Try to build a scheme. He's not going to be a Tom Brady where he stares down, short middle routes. Like it's just not going to happen. And I don't, honestly, like Trey Jr. Like I don't think Derek Carr is horrible. I really don't. I think he's okay. I mean, the problem is like everybody wants their team to be superstars. Like I fully understand all of that, but like you can have an average QB to good QB if you have an amazing team around him. So it's just basically how you want to build, where you want to build, um, and all that. So I'm just I'm not it's hard for me to decipher. And Trey Jr., are you comparing Derek Carr to Drew Brees? I mean, if I'm reading that right, bro, like yeah, obviously Drew Brees is a Hall of Fame QB and Derek Carr's not a Hall of Fame QB. I mean, so I mean for me that's really hard to like, you know what I mean, like compare the two because one is obviously way better. You know what I mean? Like way better. Like here, prime Russell Wilson versus prime Geno Smith. Russell Wilson's way better than Geno Smith. He could run better. He could throw the deep ball better. He could do the read option better. Like, so for me, it's really hard. And yeah, Rose, like, it's crazy how everything has become such instant gratification. Like, just anything in life, though. I mean, just anything in life. Like, I'm a huge baseball fan, a huge Seattle Mariners fan. People want to fire the manager, which I really like the manager, after having the best 3 year period since '01, '02, and '03. So you got fans wanting to fire the Seattle Mariners manager for having the best 3 year period in 20 years. That is wild to me. And it's not like they're playing 500 baseball. That's what I'm saying. So, like, that's like what people are saying about, like, Pete Carroll. So, the people that love Pete Carroll, for example, he got fired. So, the new coach, Mike McDonald, better do better than him, right? Like, because you're firing a coach over a 9-win season, back to back 9-win seasons. So he better do better than that. But now that people are like, no, you got to give him a little bit of time. So I mean, for me, I don't. It's just it's all a catch 22, and for me, it's like I just I don't know. I think everything in this world, like, not to go on like a tangent, but like everything's instant gratification. Like, nobody wants patience anymore. Nobody wants to deal with it, and they're like, yeah, well, and the whole thing is, well, yeah, because like I'm a fan, I don't need. But sometimes you build something special. Like, here, I'll say this for a baseball thing, and then I'll let Trey Senior start talking again. Houston Astros, they sucked. Like, they sucked so bad for like a 4 year period when they rebuilt that people were going crazy talking crap about them. And now Houston's winning World Series. Yeah, they had a buzzer, but even the second World Series, like, I mean, you got to have time. But anyways, I winded that one out. I appreciate Trey Jr. and Rose. The conversation's a blast, you guys. So I'm gonna throw it back to Trey.
Yeah, no, the conversation is definitely good. Appreciate you guys for being in here. There's a few things that I wanted to touch on there, and like Shane was saying, you can be an average, you can have an average quarterback, but if you have a good enough team, it can carry you. And I think what a good example of this is the Jacksonville Jaguars. They had Trevor Lawrence. They for a while looked like they would be kind of the dark horse of the AFC, and they kind of choked out at the end. Didn't really play out for them, but and it's crazy because you look at 2017, the Jacksonville Jaguars were one game away from making the Super Bowl, and you know who their quarterback was at that time? Blake Bortles. So they had Blake Bortles almost making a Super Bowl because they had a really solid defense. And to the point, if Trevor Lawrence was on, because their defense this year wasn't as good as in 17, but I think if you were to put Trevor Lawrence in 17, that team probably wins a Super Bowl. So I do think, and it's not like they got dominated by New England. Blake Bortles actually played pretty good in that game. Had a few calls that didn't go their way, but so yeah, I agree with you. And something else I wanted to touch on is, Shane was saying about Eli Manning, how it bothered him when you have Caleb Williams and Eli Manning not accepting where they're going to be drafted. And I heard a funny story about Deion Sanders. I'm not sure if this is true, but I guess when Deion Sanders was going to get drafted, he got drafted by, I think it was the Falcons, but there was another team at the time that he didn't want to get drafted by, and so someone asked him, he was like, "Hey Deion, were you worried if such and such team was gonna draft you?" And Deion's reply was, "If that team took me, they would have had to pay me so much money that they'd have to put me on layaway or something like that." So I thought that was pretty hilarious. But I do agree with Shane for the most part. But I guess if you're someone like Deion Sanders, like I think that's kind of might be a different situation. Like if you can play professional baseball and football, then it is what it is. So one more coaching question I wanted to ask Shane before we move on because it's been kind of a long spill, but I appreciate the conversation. So Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin, I think it's been confirmed that he's going to be sticking around for another season, but he was another guy that has kind of been on the hot seat. And my thing is that, Mike Tomlin, he had a pretty good season. And honestly, I think if we're going to put Mike Tomlin on the hot seat, we have to throw Bulls in there, in my opinion, too. Yeah, top Bulls, they had a playoff win with Baker Mayfield, but, in back-to-back years, they got into the playoffs with a 9-8 record or some terrible record. And Mike Tomlin has to go up against Baltimore and the Bengals if Joe Burrow is playing. So what's your take on Mike Tomlin and before we move on from this?
Here, I'll just say this. I think Mike Tomlin is a stud. And another thing is Rose throughout the Houston Texans as having a strong rebuild. And that was an amazing point by her because it's true. They did a great rebuild. And now they have a star upcoming QB, and they might be dangerous for years to come. Patience is the key, young grasshoppers. Now, going back to Mike Tomlin, I think he's a stud. Like I would never, ever, 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 ever fire him unless like he did something like illegal. I would definitely let him honestly continue coaching. Like I think he knows what he's doing. Like I think like he's a really good coach. I would give him a leash and just be like, "Yo, what do you need? What do you want to add on?" I mean, he took the Steelers with like kind of a broken QB to the playoffs. I mean, for me, I think Mike Tomlin should be able to stay as long as he wants, but like I said, I'm a little bit, at times too loyal. Maybe call me Pete Carroll, want to keep people around that maybe should be, shedded, cut off, but that's where I am on Mike Tomlin.
All right, for sure. So, we discussed, the AFC Championship game. We talked a little bit about Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes. I personally think that Andy Reid carried Mahomes to another Super Bowl. So, we'll see how that one goes. So, let's talk a little bit about the NFC side of things. We had the Detroit Lions against the San Francisco 49ers. You got Dan Campbell out there, and obviously there's a lot of criticism for how he always goes for it on fourth down. He relies on the analytics, and my take on it is that, obviously, yeah, he probably should have gone for it, but there's a part of me too where I'm like, if you're gonna live, if you're gonna, you have to die on your sword, so to speak. I think that for him, like, this is what we've been doing this whole year, playoffs, big games or whatever. Screw, like, let's just go out firing. Like, let's not back out now. Like, I think at the same time, there's a little bit of it. I'm just playing devil's advocate here to be like, this is what we've been doing. We're here now. Let's just keep going with it. But Shane, what do you think about Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions?
All right, I'm gonna just go. I'm gonna be honest. He lost the game for him. I'm just gonna be like honestly. I'm gonna just throw it out there. He lost the game for him. As much as he gets credit for winning other games and being big balls, Dan, and all that stuff, he lost the game for him. And Trade Jr., I do agree. Like Detroit did really well this year. Props to Dan Campbell, very good coach. Probably really good eventually. Probably elite eventually. Um, but yay, they should have won that game. They were the better team until he decided not to kick the field goal, and then it all started to snowball. And here's the thing: I do agree with Trey on this. You have to fall on the sword for what you believe in, because if I'm the type like Dan Campbell where I go for it all the time, right? But then in the playoffs, I kind of don't go for it, and then we lose anyways. The players are going to be like, yo, they're gonna feel some sort of way like, yo, we used to go for it all the time. We believed in you, coach. And then in the playoffs, you kind of like just went for like you didn't want to go for it all of a sudden. You didn't believe in us, and then it cracks within. Whereas like they could just be like, now they can say, oh well, we just didn't execute. Well, here it is. Here is the issue where I think analytics are gonna come back around eventually to maybe not being so aggressive. So I looked up a lot of stats after that game. Okay. I mean, a ton of stats, a lot of technically analytics. So, 4th and 2. San Fran went down, I believe, and got a field goal to make it 24-10, I believe, to open the second half. But Detroit went all the way down, right? And all they had to do was kick the field goal. People are like, well, he always went for it. The people that are pro, like, try to use pro analytics and pro stats are like, he always went for it. And he got it most of the time. He got it 54% of the year. So he got it half the year when he went down for it on fourth downs. On 4th and 2, the percentage was like 52% conversion rate on 4th and 2. Okay. So remember that right there. So you're up 24-10. You drove all the way back down. You answered. You answered San Fran with a field goal. So you'd be up 3 possessions again. Then the pressure would be on San Fran. 4th and 2, 52% conversion rate in the NFL, I believe, that this year. You want to know what the field goal percentage was from the 48-yard line? 70%. So if we're going to go off of analytics and all that stuff, the field goal had the 18% chance to be the better thing. That was a better option. What's going on? It's February 2nd where we live. It's not February 3rd yet. It's February 2nd. But appreciate it, Brett. It's February 2nd where I'm in West Coast. We are in the West Coast. Anyway, so going back to my subject. So it was an 18% chance, analytically wise, to kick the field goal. Now, let's bring in that kicker that they signed. You know what he was career wise? It's 77%. He was a 77% field goal kicker from the 48-yard line or something. So like that's 25%. Okay, so let's fast forward. We go to where he could have kicked the field goal to tie it. Instead, he went for it again and missed it on fourth down. So he left 6 points on the field. The final score was 34-31. So for me, as much credit as you want to give Dan Campbell, as much credit as you want to give any player out there, when they screw up, they screwed up, and it's okay to say they screwed up. He lost the game for him. Yeah, his name was Michael Bagley, Rose. But percentage-wise, if you go look it up, the field goal kicking was a higher percentage. And with Bagley's career field goal percentage from that area, it was vastly better. So, like, for me, it's like, I think eventually the aggressive analytics are going to full circle around. But, anyways, that's where I stand.
Yeah, for sure. And, I'm not a fan of the analytics. I mean, you can say whatever about Bill Belichick, right? You can say he's old, the game has passed him by, but The one thing about Bill Belichick is that he takes everything around him into account. He's like, okay, we want to go for it on fourth down. Are we home or away? What's the win condition? How has the momentum of the game gone? He takes all those things into consideration, and I think with a lot of these analytics, like they don't think momentum is a real factor, and that's ridiculous to me. It's like you have all these factors that don't compute on a computer. I mean, if you want to say that everyone should go by the analytics, and why don't we just come out and play football with robots? If it's there's no human factors that go into the decisions, why don't we just have AI play in the NFL, and we can just say, hey, this is what you're gonna do here, boom, boom. Like, yeah, the whole analytics things, I never liked it, and I won't like it for that reason. So, Shane, what do you think about this whole? I mean, you already touched on it, but I guess the whole analytics thing as a whole. But
I'm I'm a little old school, so like I mean, I'm not really sold on the whole thing. Like, yeah, sure, like I understand it. Like if he would have went for it on 4th and 2 and the Detroit wide receiver didn't drop it, it's probably game. But maybe not. Maybe they kick the three anyways. Or try to kick the three anyways. Going for it on fourth down doesn't always guarantee a touchdown. That's where the analytic people try to act like that's where the analytic people are always not correct in the same sense. That's why funny story is the psychologists were breaking down the NFL players and momentum, and the guy basically did like, look, I'm he's smarter than me, so he did like X, Y, and Z, and like showed how momentum happens until like either a ref does a momentum stopping penalty or a player breaks that momentum. But do we really believe that after the missed fourth down that momentum didn't play a part? I mean, um, obviously it did. I mean, like look at what happened. Like they stopped him. They threw like a 50-yard play that bounced off the Detroit cornerback's face mask or whatever, and then the wide receiver made an amazing catch. And then they score a touchdown. And then the very next possession, the Detroit Lions fumbles the ball, and then all of a sudden it's a tie game. I mean, come on. If people don't really want to believe in momentum, like, let's not be silly. Like, momentum's real. I mean, it really is real. Like, the crowd gets louder, you get nervous, you get a little uptight, like, uh-oh. Like, here, I'm going to be honest. Like, dude, I playing Madden. I'm playing Madden when I'm playing money games, and I could feel, like, the game changing, and I'm starting to be like, oh, should I get a little too conservative? And then I just have to, like, refocus myself. And I'm not in front of 100,000 people with millions upon millions. Sorry, The Rock. So for me, it's momentum's definitely real. Like, and that's why the psychologists and the sports psychologists they have it out there about how it can factor in. And like, I just think that in a few years, Trey, that they're gonna be less aggressive on analytics going for it all the time. If you want to know my opinion.
yeah, no, for sure. And the one game that I always point to when people want to say momentum isn't real is the game where you had the last time, not this year, but a few years ago when the Houston Texans were actually in the playoffs with Deshaun Watson, and they were playing the Chiefs. And if you can remember, in the first quarter, it was like 21-0. I mean, Houston was absolutely waxing Kansas City. Now, there was one play that happened. I think it was like fourth down, so okay, they kind of stopped and whatever. You punt the ball, and you still got the momentum. They do a fake punt, and the guy tackles them. And mind you, they're playing at Arrowhead. How are you gonna say momentum's not real? You fake a punt, you stop them, and the whole place just goes crazy. and the momentum has completely switched sides from there. And you're saying with Madden, but isn't that also a thing with Madden? Like, you're playing Madden, and if your defense is doing good, you can be like, okay, well, I don't have to be super aggressive with passing, etc. I can punt here because I know that my defense is trusted well and I trust my defense. But there's also some games where you can't get a stop to save your life, so you're thinking, okay, well, I'm probably not going to get a stop here. I have to go ahead, be aggressive, and go for the kill shot, right? Yeah.
No, definitely. Like, and that's where I'm at. It's kind of like, here, I'll use it when I used to play sports. Like, I'll give you my psychological point of view. So, there's times that we were in basketball games playing, and we are playing like butt, down 10, down 12, and we couldn't score, put the ball in the basket if it was the ocean, like they say, or whatever. I mean, so for me, like saying that it doesn't matter, like it doesn't change, like it's not really, there's no momentum is wild because all of a sudden it took one three for me and then a three for my brother, and then all of a sudden we're all rolling and we're all making buckets, and then the other team all of a sudden can't make a bucket. It's psychological. Momentum's wrapped around the psychological, mental part of the game. It really, really is. And yeah, Trey Jr., that Saints game was wild where they didn't call the flag for that pass interference. That was crazy. But no, definitely, like momentum's a real thing. Like it's just wrapped up in the psychological, mental part of the game.
Yeah, no, for sure. All right, so we've talked a lot about NFL. I did want to quickly talk about the patch because we did have a patch update since the last time we talked, and it was a pretty sizable update. So I wanted to get talk about that. So about the patch, I've heard that the number one thing that they kind of fixed was the whole fatigue issue, and also I was watching the Madden Bowl, the replays or whatever, and they were saying that in Play a Friend, right, which is where all the games are going to be taking place in the MCS Madden Bowl. Fatigue's not even in the game. I guess they turned fatigue off. So, you can just run hurry up and you don't have to worry about fatigue. So, kind of give us, what they did in the patch about the whole fatigue issue and other things that they patch. And also, real quick, what's your Super Bowl prediction? I'm going to go ahead and say that I think Kansas City is going to take over this game. I don't, for the most part, I don't think it's going to be a complete blowout, but I think it's going to be a game where it's like 31-17, that sort of thing. So I'll throw it back over to you for that.
That's a good Super Bowl prediction. Everybody in the comment section, go ahead and give me your Super Bowl prediction as well if you would like. Let's see who's Nostradamus on the next podcast, which would be February 16th, which will be the next podcast. Basically, like here, I'll say something. They definitely need to fix the fatigue, where you could just no huddle the whole time. I mean, that's pretty awful. I mean, people were doing it to me before they had to repatch it and fix it and make fatigue a thing again. I still like where they want, if you have a 90-pound advantage, that you tire out the defense. So I do really, really like that. My Super Bowl prediction is going to be the opposite of Trey. You got the number three defense with the number two offense wrapped in one as the 49ers. You got I believe the number 15 offense and number two defense in KC. I'm going to go San Fran 31 and KC 24.
All right, so Shane, well, this is I wasn't expecting this. So Shane got you 11, the Seahawks fan. He's actually picking the San Francisco 49ers to win this game, but he's played he's got to see San Francisco, two times. They beat the brakes off of Seattle on Thanksgiving, which is kind of rough, but So yeah, but Shane, didn't you know that the whole Super Bowl is rigged anyway because of Taylor Swift? She's going to do a halftime performance, and so it's all rigged for Kansas City. Do you know that? Do you?
Bro, definitely. The conspiracy theorists out there. Congrats to them, but they played themselves because they had everybody riled up. They had them in the first half. Not gonna lie, like that meme says. They showed the last 3 years Super Bowl logos where it was Cincinnati and the Rams, KC and Philly. The colors were in the Super Bowl logo, and it was supposed to be Baltimore versus San Fran. That was the Super Bowl logo. Well, Baltimore ruined it. They ruined the whole conspiracy theory, and now they want to put Taylor Swift instead of the Baltimore, whatever. So the conspiracy theory is dead to me. It's been dead anyways. If you go look back 10 years, like they had Super Bowl logos with different colors, and the teams didn't make it. But once it hits social media, it spreads like wildfire. Yeah, and Trey Jr. I really like. It's whatever, honestly. Whoever wins it, like I prefer KC to win because I don't want San Fran to win, but I'm also going to be non-biased about who I think is going to win. So really, I hope KC wins, but at the same time, I'm gonna be eating food and pop and just chilling. So, eh, it's what it is. But hopefully, KC wins.
Yeah, for sure. So do you think so? We had this patch, right? It came out a week ago, however it was. So going forward, obviously we got the new promo, we got some of the new playoff cards, and the Super Bowl cards coming out. With the way the game's been playing since they implemented this whole fatigue glitch, do you have any insight on if another patch is going to be coming, or do you think they're going to be kind of laying off as far as patches until after the Super Bowl? Because, as you know, after the Super Bowl, the game of Madden tends to die off and that sort of thing. So, do you think this would be the last patch that we see for a while? For
I don't think we'll. I think I'm gonna answer your question right. I don't believe we'll see a patch before the Super Bowl. I'd be highly shocked if we did see it. And then, like I said, like I've heard is that they do throw out certain patches after the Super Bowl, yada yada, to see for the next year's game. So I think we'll probably go down to once a month patches where like it's just little things here and there, and like I personally believe, yeah, that they are tweaking things to see how they can make next year's game. Because really, only the diehards are going to be playing in March and April and May. So tweak it a little bit, see what happens, see how the game reacts, and then get it ready for the next year. So I haven't heard anything personally. I mean, but I do think that we won't see a patch until after the Super Bowl, and I'm just not sure entirely when we'll see it. But it'll dwindle down to like once a month. I believe that is the normalcy. In years past, it was like once a month, and then it dwindled down to like once every 2 months. I believe like I think it was either last year or the year before. Don't quote me. We could go to the patch notes on the channel, but I believe it was like one time in March, and then nothing in April, and then once in May, and then that was it. So it could happen like that again.
right, for sure. So yeah, so you heard Shane. Obviously, be subscribed to Shane Got You 11. As if we do get a new patch, whether it be before the Super Bowl, after the Super Bowl, it's going to be posted on Shane Got You 11 channel. And really, it's a shame. EA Sports should be paying us and Shane also has a source. We're going to keep his source anonymous, but I think eventually we need to get to the point where Shane's over here covering these patches. Like honestly, I feel like we're kind of like unpaid beat writers, kind of for EA Sports at this point. Shane, I think EA Sports should hire us so that we can do some reports on what's going on with Matt and stuff like that. So we're about an hour in, and you know what's crazy is that we've been talking this whole time, and we haven't even got to like the main issue that has been that had you raging this whole time. So honestly, I don't even know what all you want to say at this point. It's been a while since you posted that video, so I don't know if there's been any new developments in terms of what you found out and how you feel about things now, but I guess this would be the time if you want to talk about it, if you want to give it background to some of the people who didn't get to see it and all that. So I'll turn it over to you for that.
Okay, forewarning, I'm going to go on a rant. I'm really going to go on a rant. For people who didn't watch a YouTube video and don't know about it, I know some of you guys did, but for people who will listen later on to this um, and maybe don't know, so I entered into a Sony PlayStation 5 tournament. If I won the tournament, I would be entered into a January 20, shoot, I forget, not this weekend. I don't remember, January 25th, it doesn't matter, last Saturday tournament where if I won that, I would win sideline Super Bowl tickets. I would be flown out for a week. I would get hotel tickets for two, plane tickets for two, $75 a day, food vouchers, all that. I win the first tournament. It tells me, congrats, you won. You are going to be put in a drawing to get a week's vacation or whatever, a week's vacation down to Vegas to watch the Madden Bowl, but not the Super Bowl, but everything's still the same. So I'm like, cool. So I'm feeling good. Like I beat the brakes off of people. So I'm waiting for the tournament. Friday night comes. I'm like, oh yeah, let's go. I'm not getting any messages though. And I'm like, maybe I'll get it through PlayStation. Like, when you load up Madden, it'll come through. Nothing. So I'm like, oh man, and it says something about ESL. So I sign up an account on ESL. And PlayStation didn't tell me that. I Googled it. I make an ESL account. I shoot an email. I hear nothing back. Saturday morning happens. I hop on my PlayStation. No notices or anything. I email ESL twice more, right? ESL basically, they finally respond back like, we need proof. So I send them proof that shows that I won Road to the Bowl. That's what it was called. Google it. I'm not making this crap up. Road to the Bowl. I have screenshots of my win. I have screenshots of the bracket that I won. They say send me more. Show me proof that you're on the right account. So I send Shane got you 11. It shows me that I'm Shane got you 11. They respond again. Maybe you played on the wrong account. Like, come on. I might not be the smartest person, but like, come on. Just own up. So I respond like, come on, it was me. Like, don't bull crap around. Um, so all that happened, and Sony said, Sony Sony basically, so I get a hold on Sony, and Sony basically says like generic messages and cuts me off the chat, and basically doesn't answer me. ESL finally writes me after Sony, and basically throws Sony under the bus. Like they legitly were like, "This is all on Sony." They did not. They didn't say that you won. They didn't let us know that you won. And that was basically what it is. Rose, so you said, okay, so here's where I'm at here, and like, Rose told me I didn't play my first game on ESL with your ESL account leaked at the time the game was played. It sucks your proof wasn't enough, but I'm sure that's in their fine print. Um, but it didn't say anything like that, Rose. Like I didn't go to ESL. They said the only reason like here, watch. I'll go to where it was. I for people that could see my PlayStation screen, it was basically where was it? Excuse me. It was basically right here. Come on, man. Okay, it's gone. So, anyways, it was basically somewhere there. It was somewhere in there, right where I just clicked out of it, and it says, "Oh, right here. There we go. PS5 tournaments." It didn't say anything about creating an ESL account. It like when I clicked on it, I didn't see anything like that. And maybe you're right, Rose. Maybe I needed to have the ESL account before, but the problem is ESL blamed Sony and said Sony didn't register it right for me. Um, so I mean, basically, like, let's see, like here, let's see, just see if the details. That's basically how it said right there. It doesn't say anything about I need an ESL account. They just said that ESL would let me know on Google for the tournament in the bracket. ESL Rose made it sound like Sony just screwed up and didn't get it right through the system. Like when I won on the PlayStation 5, ESL made it sound like Sony didn't capture it right and then didn't send it over to ESL's website. Because they made it sound like ESL made it sound like that it didn't matter about my account being made the night before. It should have been confirmed anyways by Sony. That's why ESL told me to talk to Sony because they said that if Sony would have sent it over, I would have been playing on that Saturday. So ESL made it sound like it was on Sony and that I didn't need the account before I won that tournament. So I mean, I guess I don't know then, but like I'm pretty sure I was safe, Rose. Like I'm pretty sure that I was safe because like as you see right here, it does the same thing on view all details. That's just like how it was. And then I hit register, and then and then it told me if you win, you'll be entered into the road to the Super Bowl, whatever. So maybe they did a slick thing that I didn't notice. But anyways, that's where I was on that. You can go look at the YouTube video if you want for me to go into greater detail.
Yeah, for sure, a crazy situation. And, I think the thing that's kind of, I guess if we're kind of looking at a silver lining or I guess just something funny to laugh at is, how you're saying, you got these two companies, ESL, Sony, and somehow EA Sports didn't make it in that line of company. I mean, it's like if you have three kids and you have one that's normally the troublemaker and but this time it's between the other two kids who you usually don't have a problem with. And so you go and, you're like, oh, it's not you this time, it's these two. But so honestly, like, what do you think at this point? Do you think it was kind of a scam at the start? Because I could kind of see it could be kind of like a sketchy thing. Maybe you have someone that looks and say, oh, I can win Super Bowl tickets, and all I have to do is buy packs. I don't think that they would do that because if they got caught, then that could that could kind of get them into trouble. Like, do you think that it was just incompetence that Sony didn't send your name to ESL or whatever? Do you think that it was kind of a conspiracy theory, kind of like a scam sort of thing? So.
I mean, if Rose is right and they just did some fine print that I didn't notice, then I mean it's on me. If you believe what the ESL representatives sent me afterwards, where they threw Sony under the bus for, not sending them over my name. Like, I mean, I think I sent you the screenshot of it, Trey. I'm pretty sure that I sent you the screenshot, and that representative said that it was on Sony, and Sony didn't send my name over. Isn't that is that correct? Right?
Yeah, yeah, you did. You sent me the screenshot of it. Um, so yeah.
And they blame
And they
Sony,
blame
correct?
Sony, correct? Yeah, they said it was Sony's fault. Yep. Yep.
Okay, so that's where I guess Rose, that's where I'm at with it right now. Like I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just going off of what um, ESL told me. They basically just said that Sony was supposed to send my name over, and then they never did. And I mean, in the end, it doesn't matter. But like, so I just believe it. I think it was just incompetence. That's just my opinion. I think they effed up and didn't want to admit they effed up, and then just were like, yeah, whatever, and got and then just moved on because there's nothing I can really do about it.
Yeah, and really, this whole thing just goes to show. I feel like you know, when you have like these video game companies, EA Sports, Sony, I don't know how Microsoft is, but I'm pretty sure it's the same. But I mean, their customer service is just not that good. Like, I mean, how difficult is it to where you could have like a phone number that people can call? You don't, and you can pay, you can pay someone $10 an hour or like maybe even more or whatever, but you just get someone, pay them $10 an hour so that at least when you call Sony to say, hey, look, I have a problem, you can actually get on the phone and be able to talk to someone. So that's an issue that I think that needs to be fixed on the customer service side. Um, so I guess with all that being said, we got the Madden Bowl. The Madden Bowl, from my perspective, over what I've seen, is that it was a decent event, but Shane kind of said in the beginning, the whole people are running, bunch, gun bunch, RPOs, flip, trips, tight end, flip, A gap, blitz. I mean, it's definitely got ridiculous. And the thing that I kind of noticed on is that everyone that's in there wasn't like an outlier. I mean, you have Drini, shout out to Drini. It was actually interesting because we got to see Drini, who was kind of Henry before Henry was Henry. Back in Madden 18, his story was pretty similar, but Drini actually, I think, is kind of being shunned from the pro Madden community because he came out and said about how he was anti-mutt, and that is kind of BS. That in order to compete, you have to spend all this money, stuff that Shane and I talk about and etc. But I mean, you had a few of the games that it was weird because you had John Beast and they were kind of talking back and forth, but I almost feel like the whole like banter back and forth, what it sounded forced to me. Like I don't know if Shane kind of knows what I'm talking about, but it just kind of seemed weird, like staged or whatever. So, with all that being said, Shane, what's your take on the Madden Bowl? Who do you have winning between Wesley and Henry? I'm gonna go Henry. I think Henry is gonna be the first Madden Bowl millionaire or whatever.
Yeah, I'm going with Henry too. I just think that he's on another level. I almost think that this is gonna sound bad. I said this last time. I think that he laid over and let Kobo kind of win without letting him win. If you know what I mean. He had already been ticketed to the Madden Bowl. Henry Kobo's his crewmate. I just feel like that loss was like he just was like whatever about it. I think he's gonna win it all, and I think, yeah, I agree with you. He's gonna be the first millionaire in Madden. I think he's the best player we've ever had. Um, I'm not so sure we'll see somebody as good as him. again. I'm being serious. I think it's just going to get harder and harder and harder and harder to win 5, 6, 7, 8 titles, even in Madden, because, like we've talked about before, Trey, is in the past, like Madden 13, I made the live event. The last title that Problem won. I would absolutely drag my old self out and spank the crap out of him. I would beat the Madden 13 Shane 42-7. And I can't even make a live event now. Like, I'm telling you, I'm that much better than I was in Madden 13. So I just think it's going to be harder and harder, and I think he's probably like one of the best players we'll ever see in the lifetime for us paying attention to Madden. I do think that like he will fall off eventually a little bit, and people will hate on him because that's what people do. And yeah, I did notice that Drini was getting heckled. I can't remember who he was playing, but he was getting heckled. I think it was it Henry? I can't remember. It was just on the replay, but I'm hella tired. But he was getting heckled, and I was a little surprised about it. I just think that I just know that Madden has their little cliques, and if you're not part of their clique, they turn on you. So that's where I'm at on that.
Yeah, no, that's 100% facts. And I get kind of disappointed because you go to the comment section and you see everyone saying like, "Oh, I'm surprised they even have these tournaments on a broken game." And it's like you're like, and that's why I think it's important for when we do eventually, reach the point of this podcast to where we get more views to where we can bring light into the situation because I'm gonna tell you right now, like it's a lot more than just the game is being broken, and I'm putting that in quotation marks, but it's a lot more than that. Like it's pretty bad. I'll just say that. So, but I agree with you on Henry, and I don't have any issues towards Henry. I think from what I can tell, he's a pretty decent guy. He's nice and everything. Um, he hasn't really had too many like things on social media that I could see. So, overall, I do think he's a good Madden player, and if he is the becomes the first Madden millionaire, then congrats to him. And I think he'll keep grinding and doing his thing. So, with all that being said, we've had a nice little podcast here. I appreciate Rose Trey Jr. for hopping into the podcast. And again, we're going to be trying to get consistent with this thing, coming back every other Friday with the podcast. Of course, Shane's going to continue streaming on YouTube and everything like that. So that's pretty much all I got. I'll throw it over to Shane to wrap this thing up.
I no, just to follow up what you said, I appreciate everybody being in here. And yeah, consistency is definitely the key. The holidays and then the one Chiefs game, which was a uh, Christmas present. So definitely I had to go to that. But yeah, we'll be here every other weekend for the foreseeable future, unless I get hit by a bus or Trey gets hit by a bus. Knock on wood. But no, we will see you February 16th. I appreciate everybody being in here, the new people that came in and chilled for a little bit. For Trey, I'm Shane, and this was the West Coast Podcast. We will see you guys again on February 16th.